I'll switch it back.
Brian Rob, Jay King, and Sam Packard present Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Boston Celtics, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Oh yeah! Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Boston Celtics, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. And a 19. Jalen Brown, D. White, Crazy Joe. Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. When Tatum coming back. Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Boston Celtics, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Oh yeah!
Come on, don't get the next generation. Guy wants to win.
Let's go, you motherfucking Celtics. Let's go, baby. Let's go. You motherfucking Celtics, let's go.
Let's go, baby! Welcome back to Still Potable, the best Celtics podcast here on Al Gore's fantastic interweb. I am Sam Jam Packard, professional sports fan. I've been talking about these Boston Celtics for the past 10 years now, 10 plus years here on the podcast world. With me for most of that time. Someone who's been
Podcast world.
Yeah, just talking at this point. You should know I just make things up. Not a lot of preparation. I just kind of had that gift
I
of
like
gab.
the podcast world. We've been living in the podcast world for a while.
For the longest time now, since way back in the Rain and Jays days. You guys recognize that voice, the Celtics beat reporter for The Athletic. He's also been covering the team for 10 plus years. Jay King, and Jay King was just on the road. Fun little Midwest back-to-back in Minnesota, in Cleveland. Celtics split those games, but the Celtics have won 3 of their last 4, 6 of their last 8, 7 of their last 10. And the question I have for you, Jay King, are the Celtics actually good? Are they a good basketball team?
Yeah, we've always thought they were going to be good. At what point did we not think they were going to be pretty good?
Well, I feel like you and I picked them to win 42 games.
I think I picked 47.
Well, there was somewhere in that range. I don't know if we were necessarily thought they were going to be a 47-win team, especially early on in the season when they had their struggles.
No, that's quite literally what I picked.
I don't think that's true. I think you picked 45.
Let me check my Celtics prediction.
Because I remember you picked something and I was going to pick the same thing, and I don't think I was as optimistic as 47.
I'm checking right now because you need to be shot down.
47 and 35, you think was your pick? Well, they're not even on. Or so are they bad then? Because they're not on a pace to win 47 games.
They're pretty close.
Well, sure, everything around the 41 and 41 thing is going to be pretty close, but fine. You didn't want to engage with my question. I'll ask you another question. What is your biggest takeaways from covering this team over a
45 and 37 is what I picked.
So they might be on that pace. What are your biggest takeaways from a interesting and a dominant Jalen Brown game in Minnesota, which they actually ended up losing, and then a Peyton Pritchard performance in Cleveland, and they kind of survived the ultimate Donovan Mitchell comeback train? What was your big takeaways from following this team in Minnesota and Cleveland this weekend?
I thought the Cleveland win was one of the best all season. Probably right behind the Detroit win for most impressive, because you're missing Derek White, who's indispensable. You're missing Nemi, which leaves your front court just in shambles. They started Xavier Tillman, who had played 5 minutes in, I believe, the previous 11 games. And so right off the bat, you're at a deficit. You are also quick turnaround after playing in Minnesota the night before. And I thought that was just a willpower game. It was just Jalen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, all the energy guys. They would not let the Celtics lose. I just thought that was really, really impressive. And I always gauge it from how tired I am at a game, like just how tired the players must be. And I was struggling.
This
is
no energy. The skinny version of you. So imagine what a fat Jay King would have been feeling like.
It wouldn't have been great. And for Pritchard to go off and have 42, and not only that, but have 42 and then have every answer down the stretch. That play when they were up 3, Cavs had cut it to 112, 109, less than a minute left. And Jaylen Brown just spaces out so that Peyton Pritchard can go to work.
He demands him take
And
Darius Garland off
Pritchard-
the dribble.
Pritchard has Sam Hauser come over to set a ball screen, so he gets the Darius Garland matchup, then goes right at Garland, stops on a dime, hits like a 13 or 14 footer from a step inside the paint. And that was the game. It wasn't really the game because
wasn't really the game because
Cavs continued hitting nonsense and gave themselves a chance to tie at the final buzzer, but it could have been game. And I just thought Peyton Pritchard was enormous. Watching the way that he attacked and was like going at vulnerabilities and just picking out his matchup and going to work made me think like maybe they should even give him more responsibilities than he already has and just kind of let him go free. And I would say behind Jaylen Brown, Pritchard is probably their best scorer.
And he's been much more of a consistent scorer this year than Derek White. Derek White's obviously struggled with his shot early on, but I feel like I have more faith in Pritchard regularly scoring. And this is obviously recency bias. This is obviously since he scored 42 points going up against a lot of Darius Garland. But he's shooting what, like over 60% on twos this year? Like him driving and getting into the lane, especially for a Celtics team that just doesn't get to the rim. And a lot of that is because Jalen's taking a lot of mid-rangers and Pritchard's taking a lot of not a lot of stuff in the restricted area, but he's taking a lot of pull-up twos there. But anything they can get going towards the rim, I feel like helps out this Celtics offense. This Celtics offense, which is now fourth best in the league in terms of offensive rating. And I think that's a lot to do with their two main kind of distributors and playmakers right now is Peyton Pritchard, one, who's scoring the ball well. And then I think Jaylen Brown, who had career high assists last night, he's done this kind of every year of his career. He's added a little bit of something, but just like making so much better decisions as a playmaker. And it's really just simple passes. He's not doing the crazy, like Jason Tatum, throw the ball over his shoulder to the guy in the corner on the pick and roll stuff, but it's like the dump off to the guy in the dunker. It's just the simple right reads. And I thought that was huge for the Celtics offense, especially last night against the Cavs. And then you see Jaylen on Saturday night, he shows like kind of the offensive domination. He kind of has this very well-rounded, polished offensive game that I think he's taking the great advantage of his kind of opportunity to be the number one guy on the team.
And they've both played in every single game so far. Do you know how important that is? Because like, imagine what would happen if honestly, like one of those guys missed time. And we said that about Derek White, and then they won when he was out. But still, like it's extremely important this season that they have everybody available, or at least those three guys available: Pritchard, White, and Jaylen. And if one of those three guys are out, it's going to be really tough. Obviously, they won against Cleveland, but so I think just tip of the cap to both those guys for the way they've approached this season. You know, with all the talk about Peyton Pritchard's, you know, cold shooting start to the year, his true shooting percentage is at 57.8. He's shooting 61.5% from inside the arc, and you know, assuming his 3-point percentage goes back to what it normally is, then this is going to be an extremely efficient season for him. And he's doing that with more responsibilities than ever, playing more minutes than ever, better defenders on him than ever. And Jaylen talked about it after that game. I thought it was a pretty smart point. He's like, I told Peyton the next step in his evolution is being able to like manipulate a game down the stretch and go after the guys you want. And it really felt like that was kind of what he did. That whole fourth quarter, it actually started for Pritchard when Jaylen was attacking, and he found Pritchard for like a deep three from the left wing, like made a nice pass and to take advantage of the help, and Pritchard splashed that. And then the next play, Pritchard cut behind the defense and Jaylen found him for a little layup. And then from that point forward, it was like Pritchard was in charge of a lot of it, and going at Garland and going at the weaker links in that Cavaliers defense. And he was getting to his spots. He was capitalizing. His work inside the arc this year has been ridiculous. The way he can just keep his balance while bumping guys and keep his handle in the lane, and just like no one can force him to do something he doesn't want to do, which is crazy because he's a 6'1" white guy. And you wouldn't think that he's like one of the most athletic, but he gets to his spots. He creates a separation. He's strong as hell. And right now there are very few guys who can keep him from getting to like that little 12, 13 footer that he's knocked down so consistently this season.
And he's like, I think Scal brings it up a bunch, but playing off 2 feet, like he always has the balance when he's taking those shots. Like he's always seemingly very level, even when fading away, even when moving to the side. I have a question for you, Jay. Is Peyton Pritchard's contract the best, like in value contract in the NBA? To get this level of play at $7 million a year, 7.7 next year, and then 8 the following year, to get a top, like a bona fide starting point guard in the NBA at that level, especially when you're paying 75% of your cap to 3 other guys, like that is the type of contract that's going to allow this like Celtics team to compete when Jason Tatum returns and for the next 2 seasons after that. Like getting that level of production from a guy you're paying that percentage of the cap is outrageous. And he's less than 4% of the cap in each of the next 3 seasons. Like getting that amount of value, Brad Stevens needs to be praised forever for kind of doing this. Getting like that's the exact type of contract and player you need if you want to be successful in this kind of this iteration of the NBA under the CBA.
Yeah, and I'm just impressed by how he's able to just add pieces to his game every year. Like last year he goes from averaging like 7 points a game the previous year to all of a sudden he's 6th man of the year. He'd always been like a very good shooter, but the versatility he added to his 3-point shot. He averaged 9.6 the year before. The versatility he added to his 3-point shot, the ability to increase his volume, like he just went crazy with it and started to show more of the off the dribble game and the playmaking type stuff. And now it's like the guy's a one-on-one problem. He's extremely tough to handle. And I think like Cleveland gave him the matchup that he wanted too often. It's like, you need length on Peyton Pritchard now. If you don't have length on Peyton Pritchard, he's liable to cook every little guard you put in front of him. You just, if I were playing against the Celtics, I would constantly have a 6'6", 6'7" guy on him and try to, survive with the, like at times they had,
well, who do they put on them? Like
they had size like guarding Sam Hauser sometimes, and I was like, have a guard shadow Sam Hauser and deal with that, and put your size. And they were playing small. They were shorthanded. They didn't have as many options. It also makes it tough when you're going into a 2-man game with Jaylen Brown, and so it's all tough. But yeah, he's graduated every year to a different level, and the off the dribble stuff is just totally different this year. And there was just not a lot that Cleveland could do with him. He was just roasting them.
They could have not played Darius Garland, who I think was like a -30 in his 30 minutes. And so I'm trying to take all of this with a grain of salt, ever like getting to play Darius Garland. But Peyton Pritchard has gotten better every single year. He has been in the NBA. I thought it was interesting that they've played pretty well in both games without Nemi, both close wins, and it didn't feel like the size hurt them when they went small, basically playing Jordan Walsh at the 5. Although down the stretch against Cleveland, we saw the X-Man return, and actually he was on the court 30 minutes in that game against the Cavaliers. the Celtics, it feels like they are not as bad of a defensive rebounding team, but they are still the worst defensive rebounding team in the league, I think, in terms of defensive rebound rate. What are you seeing from their small ball lineups? I don't think statistically it has been phenomenal when they don't have, I guess, a traditional center in there, but it's been enough for them to survive. And it feels like they're getting it's a good opportunity for the high energy guys. And I feel like they've just gotten kind of decent contributions in those moments from a Minot, from a Ugo, especially from Jordan Walsh. Shireman has actually had a pretty good week. And so it doesn't feel like it's hurting them as much as I anticipated when I saw the knee injury. What was that? Basically a week ago now.
Yeah, I think that injury has sort of become a blessing in disguise, because if you looked at the Celtics statistically before that, you would think, oh man, they are in trouble if Nemi goes down, because they just haven't found an answer for backup center minutes. And they've gone out and found answers. Like, is it perfect to have Josh Minot or Jordan Walsh at center? No, of course not. Like, you're going to be vulnerable as well as they played against Cleveland at times, or as hard as they played, I guess, because they didn't particularly play well, but they got out. They gave up 16 offensive rebounds, and that's just going to be an issue, like, no matter what. And it's not like the Cavs are like some dominant offensive rebounding team. Jared Allen didn't play. And so, but like, I just feel like they've been able to survive those minutes. Tillman gave them great minutes. Tillman was solid. You know that you can trust Tillman to play the game plan. You know that you can trust him defensively. Mobley kind of hit some threes and stuff like that and got going that way. But when he does that, you just kind of tip your cap. Like, that's something you're going to have to live with against Evan Mobley. And I thought they were able to take away the stuff that he really usually thrives at doing. And Tillman, he had some steals. He had offensive rebounds. He just did a solid job, I thought. And so they've sort of gone. It's been weird because you'd think Garza would have been a bigger part of the plans when Nemi goes down, but it's kind of gone the opposite way, where they've gone away from Garza and gone super small. And I don't think that it will work against every matchup. And I think definitely it'll drive Joe crazy at times, because Minot does do some questionable things out there on the court.
Aggressive on defense, aggressive decision making from Josh Minot from time to time.
Yeah. And he had a stretch, I think it was in the fourth quarter, where he was too eager on a closeout and kind of left his feet and then didn't get back in time, and somebody scored at the rim, and then had did he get an offensive rebound and then shot it like an immediate mid-range at another time, and Joe seemed aggravated about that. But for the most part, his energy helps. He makes defensive plays. He has been knocking down threes, and I just feel like going to small, energetic groups, and they're not super small everywhere. When they throw out those groups, it's normally
giant wings,
6'8", 6'7", 6'8", whatever. And so you can kind of get away with that, and they've gotten away with it. I think it's going to be something that's going to help them throughout the season. And then Amari Williams, they threw him out there even in the last possession of the game and had him guard Evan Mobley and helped force, I guess Mobley didn't get it up in time, but forced what would have been a miss had Mobley gotten it up.
Did not foul him.
Did not foul him. And so Williams looks like he can at least move his feet, and he's, huge guy. And so he just gives him another wrinkle. So I do think the Nemi injury is, as much as it looked like a problem at first, has probably provided more benefits to them, and just kind of forcing Joe to try different things. And those things have been, at least moderately successful.
I think tomorrow night's matchup, or tonight, depending on when you're listening to this, against the Knicks, who are one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league. Mitchell Robinson, even when the Celtics had a lot more size last year, I thought he was a real kind of X factor in that series against the New York Knicks. I think they're going back to the starting lineup and moving Robinson off the bench, but still like the double big lineup of Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. I think it's going to present an interesting challenge. I'm assuming Nimi would play, considering he played Saturday night, and I'm assuming just sat the back-to-back to kind of rest that ankle. And so you'll probably have Nimi in there, but it's just like another chance where the Celtics in this past week, they had a great win against the Pistons, who are the top team in the Eastern Conference. They had a very good win against the Cavaliers on Sunday night, who is projected to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And then there's this test at home against the Knicks, a team that knocked you out of the playoffs last year, a team that kicked your ass on opening night of the season. It's a good chance for the Celtics to kind of measure up and see where they are. Especially, I'm fascinated to see what happens on the glass when the Celtics are on defense and the Knicks are on offense, because it's like that is their strength against the Celtics' weakness. How are they going to perform there? And like, I think one of the things Jordan Walsh has done as he come in is he's just been like brought in a physicality and like getting the defensive glass. He got the offensive rebound where he was going for the tie up against the Cavs and just kind of ripped the ball out and then kind of got the and one. He's definitely brought a level of physicality. I don't know if it's necessarily improved their rebounding numbers, but I think it's going to be a fascinating test to see like what does this new Celtic starting lineup do against a Knicks team that's playing kind of phenomenal offense right now.
Yeah, it should be a good test. And I got a question for you. Are you worried that big pieces of the Celtics offense so far, which I believe is either 4th or 5th ranked, are you worried that parts of it are just not sustainable? Like Jaylen Brown's mid-range shooting will dry up at some point, or Peyton Pritchard will stop being such a 2-point daddy, or
I know that's an established phrase in the podcast world, but it's still fun to hear you say it.
The podcast world, oh yeah. But like, are you worried at all that it's just like they're relying in part, like not entirely relying on Jaylen to do really hard stuff and Peyton to do really hard stuff, but like that's a huge part of what they do. And if those guys just fall off a little bit, and especially Jaylen, like he's shooting 51.7% from the mid-range. He's taking more mid-range field goal attempts than anybody else in the league and shooting 51.7%. Like that's insane. It's almost impossible to keep that. Like only the Kevin Durant's of the world keep that. And even Kevin Durant this season is at 46.5%. So like what happens if and when he does fall off? How far does this offense fall?
So my dumb fan brain is like, no, Jaylen Brown has ascended to a new level of 2-point shot making that is just going to be sustainable. My more logical, analytical brain is like, my biggest concern with this team is free throw discrepancy and how they're basically losing that margin. And I've been so margin pilled by following a Joe Mazzulla team for the past 3 years that like you think about the margins, but like they don't draw free throws whatsoever because they don't go to the basket. Like what percentage of their shots are at the rim? And so I think they can certainly get by, but Jaylen didn't have the best, I guess, shooting performance in the game against the Cavs, but he also had 11 assists. But like if Jaylen has an off night, do you have enough consistent offense to like generate enough buckets? And so I think there should be some concern there, just because you got to get more points going to the rim. You got to generate more free throws. I think they're worst in the league in terms of free throws attempted per game or free throw rate. And they continue to foul a bunch. And so I don't know how you kind of close that gap, close that margin by having the diet of mid-range shots, especially Jaylen's taken a lot of long twos, which I think he's shooting at an excellent clip this year, but like, it's just not from the kind of analytical margin view of the game, which
their statistical profile is like bonkers.
It's just not.
It
It's like
makes
Daryl
no
Morey
sense.
is rolling over in his grave.
It makes no sense. Like, they are fourth in offensive efficiency. They are last in attempts at the rim. They are number one, I believe, in long mid-range attempts, which typically not good. You don't want that. They are last in free throw attempts, which is bad.
They don't go to the
And
rim. Like, who goes to the rim other than Jaylen Brown?
who could? Who would even consider it?
Derek White could do, like, he's not a rim guy. He's like a floater guy. Like, they just don't have any stuff that really goes to the rim other than Jaylen Brown and then Nimi lobs.
That's about it. Or like Josh Minot from time to time getting free.
He'll catch the ball in the corner
free.
and just attack recklessly.
Yeah, it's something else. I've never seen a statistical profile like theirs where they rank fourth in offense, and so many things that you would think of being like really vital to an offense, they just don't have.
Do you see this from a commenter, Adam Rojan-Gorlitsky? Statistical exercise by a student shows that there's no correlation between rim shot frequency and free throw attempts, which is wildly counterintuitive. But it's my best explanation for why they don't shoot free throws, Jay. If it's not because they're not going to the rim, why do you think they don't shoot any free throws?
They don't have any outside of Jalen. They just don't have big physical drivers. Like Peyton Pritchard is 6'1". Derek White is 6'3". Anthony Simons is 6'3" or 6'4" and slender. Like, these are not guys who are going to overpower guys, who are going to get you on your hip and put you in jail and get you in all sorts of trouble. Like, no. Jalen's the only one, and this has gone back years. Like, they've
always
trouble.
been not a good free throw generating team.
Yeah, and now Jason Tatum's not playing, and all your scorers are just like smaller guards. So that would be my thing. And then outside of Nimi, they don't have really any big man who puts pressure on the rim. Like, Luka Garza gets offensive rebounds, but he's very much an under the rim type of guy. And then, like, Xavier Tillman is not going to be a lob threat. He's not going to be, creating free throw attempts. And so they just don't have a lot of guys who are going to get to the line. And it's basically Jalen or bust. And Peyton Pritchard has at times done a halfway decent job of it. But again, he's 6'1", and unless you're like Jalen Brunson and super, super crafty with it at that size, then your chances of getting the line are minimal.
Here's the thing. It's like, it's definitely concerning that they have the kind of current shot profile that they have. I don't know what other path they have to winning basketball games than taking this shot profile, not turning the basketball over, trying to generate a bunch of turnovers on defense, getting the easy buckets, trying to crash the offensive glass. Like, they just don't have what it feels like a talent to play a different style of basketball. Like, that was the beauty of the teams of the past two seasons, especially the championship team, is they had 8 guys who could legitimately play a bunch of different positions, and they could play a bigger lineup. They could go double bigs, but then they could go 5 out, and they could attack you in a number of different ways. And they're so versatile. Right now, it's like, it is Jaylen Brown, it is Peyton Pritchard, and then it is hoping you get a contribution from one of the energy wings and hoping Derek White knocks down threes. Like, there is just no other really. Do I want a bunch of guys who are not that big driving a bunch more and trying to draw fouls? No, it feels like they're winning basketball games, or at least 11-9 so far, like, with the way that is putting them in the best position to win. And I don't know if they have another style in them, but maybe we're seeing that, like, they can play smaller, but I don't know if that's necessarily generating better looks for them on offense, because even their small ball lineups are not like the traditional going small and having 5 shooters out there. Like, none of the kind of energy wings are like kind of knockdown guys that really spread out the floor that would maybe open up driving lanes. And so in terms of offensive approach, especially in the half court, I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, like, I've never ever seen a statistical profile like theirs. It's something else. Like, they They should not be fourth, but they take care of the ball. They do a decent job of getting on the glass. They've made, Jalen has made seemingly every mid-range shot. They shoot a ton of threes, and some of them go down. And it's really like it defies logic. Their offense sort of defies logic. One trend that's kind of troubling right now is that they've stopped forcing turnovers. Like their last 10 games, and granted they're 7-3 in those 10 games, they are 23rd in forcing turnovers.
Has that come with not fouling as much?
Like
did they do the trade-off that I wanted them to do?
Opposing free throw rate 17th. So they're not
better, though. I feel like they were much worse in opposing free throw rate to start the season. Would Joe ever admit to making an adjustment and telling them to be a little bit less aggressive on defense to try and control the fouling? Did they find the right kind of tinkering to figure out, okay, what's aggressive enough to generate turnovers so we can win this game, but let's not be down by 10 in terms of the free throw battle?
That's a good question.
You should ask Joe Mazzulla that probably tomorrow.
It's been interesting to see them just like stop forcing turnovers because they did a great job of it early in the season. They were in one of the league leaders for a while, and now they've just really fallen off the second half of the season to date. So we'll see.
It's definitely something to keep track of. Like as long as they keep winning, I say you continue doing that formula. I think we'll finish off with this comment, Jay. It's a quarter of the way through the season. We've seen them play the Pistons. We've seen them play the Cavs. We've seen them play the Magic like 17 times. Where do you think this team stands in the Eastern Conference? Are they a top 6 team? Do you think and I think we're just going to assume no major injuries. Like where do you think they are considering just how bunched up the East is right now?
It all depends on whether they can stay healthy.
No, that's why I said assume they do stay healthy.
If they do stay healthy, they'll have a chance to get into the top 6. East is so weird, right? I really don't know what to make of it. Like I believe in the Pistons at this point. I definitely believe in them. They are big, they are physical. Cade Cunningham has taken a leap. He's fantastic. They are for real. But like, are the Raptors for real? Are the Heat for real? Are the Hawks, who have just been piling up wins without Trae Young, for real?
I don't know. I'm excited to see the Celtics play all of those teams. I just don't know how they measure up. Like I'm fascinated for that first Raptors game because I did not expect them to be this good. I think they've lost 2 in a row now, but they won 8 in a row before that without RJ Barrett. I think it makes the Eastern Conference. And Lily Bergtron says the Raptors are worse than his left nut, and that's difficult to kind of measure because we don't know what Lily Bergtron's left nut is capable of. But the Eastern Conference right now is so bunched up that it's going to be a wild playoff race, and the Celtics are right in it. They're definitely not tanking. I think there's this interesting approach. Like, what do they do with Anthony Simons, who hasn't really done much for them at the trade deadline? Are they trying to cut money? And then there's the whole Jason Tatum conversation that we haven't really encountered. But I think it's going to be a fascinating week here for the Celtics. Big matchup on the NBC National with the Knicks on Tuesday night. Then they've got an unfortunate game against the Wizards on Thursday before welcoming the Lakers to town on Friday night, which should be a very fun matchup. Still Potable, the podcast world of your dreams, will be there to cover it all. And so if you like the show, you're watching live on the YouTubes, on the Twitter right now, go to patreon.com/stillpotable. We have podcasts for you every day of the week. If you just want those free shows, though, you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Still Potable. Subscribe today. Leave a 5-star comment. We really appreciate everyone who's tuning in. We appreciate the people who left the comments. We appreciate everyone who's out there in the podcast world. For Jay, for B-Rob, I'm Sam Jam Packard. We appreciate you guys tuning in to this episode of Still Potable.
Still potable, still potable. The Boston Celtics still potable, still potable.
Oh, yeah.
Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.